you know, and it takes wisdom even for a pastor to introduce
Yeah,
the
so
wife
wasn't
for the
he like
congregation to know.
acknowledging you or
Because
something?
many times, even in conferences, even my husband would not even tell people about me. However, I am personally empowered enough not to see that as anything, but I would more pray about it. But he may not even have thought maybe that was not that he needed to do that. But that communicated a lot to the women in the church.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes,
Obviously.
because he's my husband. He's not talking about me. We have conferences.
He's not saying anything.
Yeah, I even remember one time we had a conference, and then everybody is being recognized, and nobody has mentioned me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Difficult Conversations podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our very first episode on YouTube. It is such an honor to finally be here. And on today, you can find the rest of the episodes on Spotify. So on today's episode, we have a special guest. This is a phenomenal woman. She is truly the testimony of somebody who has been sifted like wheat, and her faith has prevailed her. And she is here to strengthen the brethren. So I thank you so much. Lydia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Truly appreciate you for making the time and the effort. So, Lydia, you have a very powerful testimony. Let's just jump straight into it. But before we jump into it, what do you do?
Thank you very much, Valentine. I am a teacher. I am a teacher in a TVET institution here in Kenya, Nairobi Technical Training Institute, where I am a lecturer, technical trainer in applied biology. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So, Lydia has a very, very interesting testimony. So, let's just jump into a bit of your background. Where does it all start with your testimony and your journey with God?
Okay, thank you, Valentine. I got born again. I was born in Embu, in a family of 9 of us. And at a very early age, when I was in primary school, the Lord spoke to me. I was in class 4. And I remember I was leaving school and, just that little innocent girl brought up in the village. And the Lord spoke to me and told me to go back to the market center where our local church was. That was the Anglican church. Anglican church has a fellowship that meets on Wednesdays. And I went there. It's not very popular with young people or children, but I found myself there. And I confessed Christ as my Lord and Savior in class 4. So that is where it began.
That is where it began.
Yes.
So now, how old were you when you got married? What was your life prior, before marriage?
Okay, after I got born again, I schooled in Embu, primary and secondary school. And then after that, the Lord helped me. I passed my O-level exams. And I was taken to Kenyatta University, where I started my degree in education. And I was a very committed to Christ, and I didn't have any relationship with any man when I was in college, when I was in campus. I was brought up in this kind of a family setup where we were told by my father, my late father, that our life must speak to the world. And if anyone will have a relationship with any man, then it must be with an objective. So most of my friends were schoolmates, but it was never in the attitude of, that love of a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So later on, when I finished my college in 1990, I was posted, 1995, sorry, I was posted to teach in one of the institutions called Kenya Technical Training Institute. And I joined a certain church where I became a young adult director because I had all this fire from campus. And then I was also very, very passionate about outreach and prayer. So that's where I got my 3 years after getting out of college in 1998. Actually, early 1998 is when I met the man that later married me. I met him in 1997. He married me in 1998. Very short period of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did the courtship happen? Was he also in ministry like you? What was the situation like?
Good question, Valentine. We were in the young adult ministry. I was a young adult director. He was one of the young adults in that ministry. And a minister in the church also, just like I was. And in the process of doing ministry, he proposed to me. And I did not, it was strange because I was not used to a boyfriend. Meanwhile, I was in a family where I remember one of my sisters telling me, hey, Lydia, you are in this, you are now working, you have just been in college, you are working, you have not brought someone here. So I think you need to do something. So it was like, I think pressure started mounting up in the society with my friends. And anyway, I was about 27 years, 28 years. And I gave in. I gave in to the love, which was very strange for me because I had never been in a love relationship with a man. That's how it all began.
So would you say it was the lack of self-awareness that was strange for you? And just the pressure from everyone else?
Okay, there was the pressure. There was also my, naivety. I was not very, I must say, I was not surrounded with many mentors because love was not a very easy thing for me to talk about. I was just this very serious girl, outreach, just preaching and praying and all that. And I did not have any thought that I needed to be mentored to get into marriage. As a matter of fact, I would think like marriage will take me from being committed to God. So I was very naive and I was ignorant to so much. And so when I came into a love relationship, I did not know how to handle very many things. Very many things. And considering that my background did not give me an opportunity to freely engage with men, I did not have someone to talk to about love very freely. That relationship. So I maneuvered it alone and it was like, okay, I don't know, talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was there.
Okay, so now you're 27, right?
I was 28.
So you got married at 28?
Yes.
And then now your early years of marriage, how was it like?
The early years of marriage were good. One, when I got married, I was working and I had some salary, the Kenyan salary, and we were able to at least put food on the table. It was not easy though, because my husband then was in full-time ministry with church. We had just started as, a church. Me, I was working in the marketplace, in the secular world as a teacher. So my salary was a consistent income. but it was little.
Wait,
So we
so
were struggling a lot.
he
Yeah,
didn't
he
have
was.
a formal job.
He
But
didn't.
you had.
Yeah, when we got married, he didn't have a formal job. He was a full-time minister in the
Okay.
church, and
Okay.
the church was not paying him a salary.
Okay.
Yeah, so we thrived on my little income. That
Okay.
time, actually, as a teacher in Kenya, I remember my salary was less than 20,000. Must have been about 15,000. It kept on increasing from 11,000 to 15,000, those days, yeah?
Yeah.
But we were able to live in our small way, and but it was tough.
Okay, so he's in full-time ministry and you are a full-time teacher.
Yes,
And then I understand that you had kids in that time period.
yes. I got married in August 1998, and our firstborn son was born after 1 year and 3 months. That was the following year in June.
Whoa.
Yes, so
So that
we
was
didn't take
very
time.
fast.
We did take time. It was so fast. Remember, as I've told you, we didn't have. I didn't have someone that I can talk to because love was a strange thing to me, and
Yeah.
I was not very free to talk about even issues in marriage, and I didn't have a marriage counselor. I wouldn't say that I had someone that I could talk to that could tell me maybe like this thing people call honeymoon, what happens in honeymoon, how do you plan, and all that. So I was just there,
Yeah.
a young girl from college being loved and feeling very strangely nice,
Yeah.
Yes.
So at what point did things change in your marriage?
Now, as we continued in marriage, there are some technical areas or within my marriage that were not very clear to me. You see, I got married. I come from Embu. I got married to this man from a different tribe altogether, from the west, was a Lydia. And I can tell you I didn't know much about Lydia culture because the courtship took so short a period of time. I didn't know how Luhias behave. I didn't know how to behave. Actually, Valentine, I can tell you, when I got married, my father passed on, went to be with the Lord when my child was about 3 months. Okay, yeah, about 3 months. And we were very close to my father because of the way he raised us up. And I would hug my father. That's how we related with my father. All the girls in our home, we would walk to church with my father. We were very close. So when I got married, I didn't know that it is anti-Luhia culture to hug my father-in-law. And nobody told me.
I'm sorry, what? It's against the culture to hug your
Yeah,
father-in-law.
that's what I got to learn. And I went there in my innocence, and now all the love of my father was poured onto my father-in-law. And believe you me, I was not just giving my father-in-law a handshake. I was hugging him. And nobody told me it was wrong. But people were fighting it so strange.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Maybe those are some of the issues that I came across. And then another thing that also made me like, how will I pull through this? Where I come from in Embu, there is a way we conduct our culture.
Yeah.
Like in funerals, we don't we don't open the whole coffin, like that. But in the Western culture, even the body will spend within the compound. So I remember that time one of my brothers-in-law lost a son, and we went. My son was still very young, and I was this shocked person because it was the first time I encountered that. And I was this scared person. I didn't know how to relate, how to act, how to behave in marriage. So there was a lot of pulling now because there are things I'm expected to do and I can't do them because of where I'm coming from. There are things I am doing which they are not appreciated.
Yeah.
And I don't know about them. And I don't know that they are not appreciated because nobody told me anything. I didn't have time actually to be with my mother-in-law a lot because all along I've worked in Nairobi. And so I made mistakes. And we didn't have time to bond with my people unless if they came or if I traveled for short holidays. So I think there was no enough room to connect. And remember, our courtship took a very short time.
But why do you think it was rushed, though?
In the course of time, I realized that my courtship was so rushed. Personally, I didn't realize it because I was in this strange love I've never experienced. That was, to me, it was good. But my husband at that time was also, I think, he was of age. And, just feeling you want to settle. Just feeling you want to settle. And I wouldn't really say that I would tell why it was so fast, but I think there was a rush. Because normally there are things I would have wanted to know, but there was no room for me to know. And, like organize myself to have this big wedding and all that, but it was not there. So we just found ourselves there. And then my father is the kind of a person that when my husband then came, as my boyfriend at home, my father allowed him and he said, okay, fine, this is a girl, you are born again, you are a pastor, and this girl is born again, she's a minister in the church, she got married from an early age, so I think, okay, you people can get married, it's all right, even if you don't have money, you can bring it later. So we were supported from my father. Yeah, in fact, when I got married, no dowry was paid for me. There was a small token that is normally given when somebody wants to marry, like those cultural practices where you give something to the in-laws so that you can be able to at least to book the girl or to be allowed to relate with the girl. And that was it. So that's how I got married. So there was no time, there was no need to wait. My father has given permission.
Yeah.
We don't have to look for money. And and you remember, my husband was a pastor. He was not being paid by the church.
So what was his ministry like if he wasn't being paid?
Okay, the ministry was small, was young.
Okay.
Yes, was young. That time we were serving in a different church, and we had not started our own church, and that church was still growing. So he was not a pastor on any support. Yes.
But I understand that his life changed later on when you guys got married, right?
Yes.
Like in terms of his ministry, you guys went ahead and how was that process? You went ahead and started a church?
Yeah, when after we settled, we later on were commissioned by the pastor of that church then, who is the same person that joined us in wedlock, and in our wedding, that is. And we started our own church. He started his own church, and of course, being his wife, I was there to support him. And it started in a school, a small classroom, where we would go pray on Fridays. Okay, me, I'm a person, I love prayer. So we'd go and spend the time praying, and the people continued coming in this small church, but it didn't grow very big. In the course of time, of course, looking at the gift of children that were coming to our lives now, the Lord opened doors, and my husband had an opportunity to connect with destiny helpers. Destiny helpers came, and they started now giving support. They worked with us, and they were giving support. And that is how the ministry continued growing now, because we have people that are able to support, help us do things that church requires, like equipment, like rentage, like we actually even got an opportunity to live in Lavington. Yeah.
Through the ministry.
When I got married, we were living in Kawangware, and we had an opportunity to live in Lavington through support of the church, which to me, the grace of God was sufficient. It was amazing. Yes. And the church was paying, staying in this place, Lavington West. Yeah, that's where we were staying for quite a long time.
Okay, so now you are Mama Kanisa.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the pastor's wife. So what was your experience as a pastor's wife? Like from
Good
start
question.
to finish.
Good question. Now, one of the things that happened to me is that I became now a pastor's wife. Remember when I got married, he was a pastor, but we were in a different church. But after getting married, he started his own church. In the church where I was when we got married, or where we were, there was a pastor's wife. We were just ministers in the church. But when he started his church, now I became a pastor's wife. But I'm becoming a pastor's wife without a mentor. I'm becoming a pastor's wife without, in a church that demands so much. And so I had to try to find how to fit as a pastor's wife. And, the society has an expectation, which is actually wrong. They have an expectation where they expect a pastor's wife to be a pastor also. And I can tell you that is wrong, because pastoring is a call.
Yeah.
It's a call. A pastor's wife is just there to support the husband. And thank God, because I knew myself, and I realized in the course of time, it was bringing a lot of antagonism and disconnect between me and my husband and the church, because 90% of my time was being spent in school, in my secular job.
Yeah, so you're not available.
So I was not available for these church fellowships, sometimes even conferences, sometimes even, meetings in the church. Women are there, maybe they expect me to be there. The expectation of the society is that the pastor's wife will be there, will be available when they have issues, when they want someone to talk to them, someone to counsel them, and they're expecting counseling from somebody who has not been counseled. That kind of a thing. So I didn't know that was something, because being a teacher in the classroom and being expected that, at that time we started even having conferences with people from outside, and they are coming here and they are like, where is your wife? Maybe they're asking my husband like that, and maybe they would wonder where I am. But gradually with the time, they also got to learn I work in school. And with the city jam, I remember we were not driving at that time. I was using public means. And sometimes I would have to leave very early and come very late, because these roads were not there at that time. These superhighways and expressways, it would be like you can stall in the jam for like 3 hours. So you can imagine, I am leaving school, I'm arriving home at around 8 or 9. My husband is wondering, where are you coming from? I am trying to explain, he may not understand.
So do you think that created like distrust and also isolation on your end? Yani, you felt isolated with just being in school, and because you're a career woman, you gave it your best with school, which is your passion. And I feel like you do have a calling for teaching, not just being a lecturer, but generally even teaching the word of God. So do you feel like that created a wedge in your marriage?
Yes, and that is true. Every man that marries a woman marries to have a wife, and a wife must be supportive. If that support is not defined well, it can bring a lot of issues, because as much as I would support, I remember when we started the church in Kawangware, Riruta Satellite, I remember taking a loan and we bought seats for the church. You know, I'm a kingdom financier. I like financing the work of God. And it started at a very early age. And I remember that was I think my main support, as long as God provided finances. But every man, if they are not careful, they may want support beyond their wife's career, so that even in the ministry, they may expect their wives to be there. You know, this kind of, I think I admire some of these in the churches where you find a wife is standing there and is introducing the husband, or in a conference, and it's always good to be, a man feels encouraged when the spouse, who is the wife, is there. But if the man does not understand, especially when the wife is in a secular career like mine, it can bring a lot of tension and misunderstanding. And it's only wisdom that can make a church where the wife is not a full-time minister, the wife to the pastor is not a full-time minister, is only a wise congregation that can be careful and observant and wise not to let women take the position of the pastor's wife.
Is that what happened?
Like, I may not be there in the women ministry. Somebody will be there. But somebody needs to know they are not the pastor's wife. You may head the women department in the church, but you are not the pastor's wife. You may even help in the house of the pastor, but you are not the pastor's wife. But guess what? If that is not observed, it is possible for women in the church, to disrespect their pastor's wife, especially when she is not seen at the forefront, at the front line, as a frontliner. Not forgetting, myself, I love prayer, and one of the ways I have highly supported my family and my church, my husband for that matter, was prayer. I may not be there, but I was ever on knees praying for success of those meetings. And of course, when I'm available, I won't be in the church, but not every time. And it takes a mature church to understand that a pastor's wife is not a pastor. And that the church can run even in the absence of the pastor's wife. That the first duty of a pastor's wife is to take care of the husband, who is the pastor. That's the first ministry. That's the first ministry. And then pray for him. But not be at the front necessarily if you are not available because of a career. Yes.
So how was your relationship like with the women when they weren't seeing that you're present?
Of course, some women took advantage. I felt so, and I felt very bad.
What do you mean?
In the sense that it would be shown openly to me by some people, some women in the ministry, like I don't matter much. I am not very impactful in terms of, we would be even in church. Do you know, we would be even in church, and of course, when you are in a church, it's an error. Even if you are the pastor's wife in a church is not a frontliner, do you know it's an error to be in a church for even one Sunday, just one day, and you don't get to recognize the pastor's wife. You don't get to know her. I remember this time when ladies visited me in my house, and one of them expressed shock. And I was like, wait a minute. We were coming to visit the pastor's wife. Said yes.
Oh, so she didn't know
She didn't know me. And she was like, I always see this girl in the church. This is the bishop's wife, actually, that time, and graduated to a bishop. This is the bishop's wife. I didn't know her. And it takes wisdom even for a pastor to introduce
Yeah,
the
so
wife
wasn't
for the
he like
congregation to know.
acknowledging you or
Because
something?
many times, even in conferences, even my husband would not even tell people about me. However, am personally empowered enough not to see that as anything, but I would more pray about it. But he may not even have thought maybe that was not that he needed to do that. But that communicated a lot to the women in the church.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes,
Obviously.
because he's my husband. He's not talking about me. We have conferences.
He's not saying anything.
Yeah, I even remember one time we had a conference, and then everybody is being recognized, and nobody has mentioned me. Yeah, nobody has mentioned me, and I'm there. Why? Not because he did not maybe want to do it, but because I had been so absent that I would not occur in his mind in terms of ministry.
Oh.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But you see, while
Yeah.
in his innocence,
Yeah.
it is communicating something. So it is very important in any church for the pastor and the wife to know how to relate in terms of posting the right image to the congregation to protect, because the devil finds opportunities, and that many people would think, in fact, that we have issues.
Did you have issues?
Well, we had issues. But you know what? The Kenyan pastor's wife, or normally, a pastor's wife prays more than talk more. It is wisdom to talk less, listen more, pray more. Of course, just like every other marriage, there are issues in our marriage, in our family. Because the pastor is also a human being. Many people don't know that. Many people think that the pastor is an angel. Many people think a pastor's wife is an angel. No, it's a family. It's a marriage like any other. Our children were growing like any other children.
Yeah.
We were a couple like any other couple. Yeah, we would have couples meeting in the church, and of course, I would be there. We would be there with him, and so we had issues, and that's normal. Issues come, people pray about them, and you don't go talking about issues unless when it reaches a level where you want to seek help from outside. Yes, but many people would think, I mean, how is he not talking about her? I remember one lady who stopped me one time and told me, wait a minute. Like when they visited, that lady was like, I've been in the church. Are you the bishop's wife? And I said, yeah. She said, no, I've been in that church for 6 months. I've never known you are the bishop's wife. Do you see? That is very serious.
Yeah.
That's very serious. Because even if a pastor's wife is not at the front, the pastor should mention about her. And I thank God, I am in a church where I hear my pastor talking about his family, talking about his wife, his child. I mean, it's admirable. And everybody can even tell, even in the church, you don't have to, in the church where I am, you don't look for the pastor's wife. You know her. You don't even ask someone who's the pastor. It's so obvious the way they relate, the way there is a relationship, at least during the service,
Okay, so let's just go back a bit. So
Yes.
what was your relationship like with God when you're receiving that kind of reception, especially from women? Did it ever like make you feel like, how you can judge someone who is in church, you're like, how are women treating me like this, and then they call themselves Christians? Like, did that ever affect you with your relationship with God? Or were you more now put in a situation because you felt a little bit isolated, you had to go back into your prayer closet and know God more?